This is Travis Valman from the Old Terps podcast, season 2, episode 2. Let's get into it.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 2, season 2 of the Old Terps podcast, brought to you by one of your hosts, Mr. Andrew Terrell himself.
Travis Valman's here. I just came from the New York Giants football game. We are terrible, and we should be tanking, but we're not. But I'm here on the pod. Maryland basketball. I don't know. In Asheville, North Carolina, it looked like we were tanking too. But hopefully, we're gonna figure it out. So I'll let you guys speak.
Well, we got Reese here as well. Travis has a hideous Giants jersey on, but I can't speak much because I'm a Washington Commanders fan. But geez, that and the Terps struggling lately. But pass it over to Kev.
Yeah, Kevin Herter here. We'll jump into it. Ugly start for a lot of teams that we all root for.
I think we tank.
do we get the best draft pick in the Big Ten next year if we tank?
I mean, guys, if there was an ugly meter, let's just say I'm the best looking and Kev's the worst. We're down by Kev right now. It's getting
beyond.
Yeah, it's been tough.
What are we doing though? So here's my question for you guys. When you have a team that shoots as poorly as we do, I've got one big view here. You're either a good shooter or you're not. You don't teach good shooting. So what do you do?
All right, so this is funny. I asked the other two guys, Drew, how many teams off the top of your head are there in Division I men's college basketball?
350.
351. You're well done. You're close.
Andrew watched a lot of college basketball.
He watched a lot of college basketball for a lot of reasons.
That's a lot of college basketball.
He's seen all 351 play. In case anybody's wondering, what if you had to guess what number? What are we ranked in 3-point percentage out of those 351? If you had to guess off the top of your head,
if I just had to guess, I'd say 95. Because we at least have we're at least in the Big Ten.
That's funny. That's we might be 98th in the Big Ten. Any other guesses here? Just because it's not 98th.
I got sub 250.
Sub 250 is correct. Reese, what do you think?
I would say 200.
Okay, 200. Fellas, we are 348th in the country in 3-point shooting percentage at
There's
21. At a whopping 21.4%. Let me just repeat. So just in case anybody didn't hear, we are 348th in the Division I men's basketball out of 351 at 21.4% from 3-point percentage. 6 for 30. No, that's wrong. Excuse me. 30 for 140 on the season.
Big believer. You gotta get the ball in the hoop to win games. I'm a huge believer in it, fellas. So what does that mean for us? Like, do you think percentages even out? And because we are not that bad of a shooting team. Like, we might be bad, but 348. Come on. Do you think anything levels off, or is this it?
I think it'll level off a little bit. I don't think we're going to be the best shooting team in the Big Ten. I think we will be bottom 4, probably with Indiana. But I was looking at today, Travis, myself, Andrew, we're not the best shooters. We weren't known as shooters. I think we were fine.
Hustle guys.
Hustle guys. Drew had 6 attempts. He knocked down 1.
Drew was not a hustle guy. Drew was not a hustle guy.
What are we talking about?
All right, I'm going to talk about Drew. You shot 6 threes in games, cold, right off the bench, and he knocked down 1. Hold on, I shot 6, made 2. Trav shot 5, made 3.
I'm a better shooter than Travis.
Deshaun Harris-Smith has shot 18 threes. Guess how many he's made?
Please God, be more than 3.
I hope it's like 6 at least, or 4 or 5.
Uno.
Oh my gosh.
So here's something for you guys. Here's something for you guys. Do you remember the Purdue team that was one of the best teams in the Big Ten when they had Isaac Haas and stuff like that, PJ Dakota, Vince Edwards, Carson Edwards, etc. They didn't have a guy on the floor that shot under 40% from triple land. I mean, fellas, we've got our second best shooter on the team. He's 1 for 18. What do we do?
I think there's
Go ahead, Kev.
there's like a, for me it's not all, I mean there's a lot of negative. The issue with our team right now is like the guys who are supposed to be making shots are not making shots. Like I don't think it's fair. Obviously we're not expecting Julian Reese to make shots. I think it's going to level out for Jameer. Jordan was not brought to Maryland to make threes. Dante Scott's been a very average shooter. I think he'll level off somewhat. The biggest issue is definitely for the amount of minutes that Deshaun is playing, you need more shot making from him. Jamie's gotten off to a slow start. We even saw in Asheville, they're trying to play Noah more. The issue is the guys who are supposed to be making shots are not. The only thing I will say about that is 2 of those guys are freshmen. All right. There is a jump to college basketball that needs to be taken into account. These guys were, Jamie was a good shooter in high school. Deshaun was a scorer in high school. So I think that those guys will come along. Noah hasn't gotten a lot of minutes throughout his college career. So I think similarly, he just got to get his legs under him. So I think some of these guys that we expect to carry the load for shooting threes, we just need them to come along. And I think the likes of Dante was year 5, Jameer was year 5, like those guys are going to level off. But if you're getting nothing out of Deshaun, you're getting nothing out of Jamie and nothing out of the limited minutes that Noah is playing, like you see what the result is.
I will say that, and this is something that, as a fan, obviously, like we've been hearing a ton about Deshaun and Jamie and the offseason and how, they're supposed to, carry the load and be, big time contributors. I think there's something to be said for it. And this is something I think all 4 of us went through, probably Kev less than the rest of us, but like there is a transition when you get to college in terms of shot making, right? Like the 3-point line is further back than you shot it from high school. You have to get your shot off quicker than you did in high school because guys are closing out and you have to be able to, come off a screen and make a shot and be able to shoot off the move. And that's something that, I think coming in, we expected a lot of these new guys to be, we had to replace a lot. Like Hakeem Hart played a lot of minutes. We had to replace him. Ian Martinez is a guy we haven't talked about a lot, but he played a lot of minutes, had to replace him. And I think we expected these freshmen to come in and kind of just immediately replace these guys. And it's, you guys all know, like there is an adjustment there in terms of shooting the ball from distance as a freshman.
And I think someone similar, you're going to see like Deshaun, that his game isn't at all a spitting image of Daryl, but Daryl came to Maryland. He was known as a driver, a physical, athletic driver, gets to the rim. And then over his 3 or 4 years that he was at Maryland, you saw a shot come along. He hits a huge game-winning shot at Minnesota. Like his shot came along, but he didn't come into Maryland shooting the ball. I think Deshaun's a similar profile, even though he's more of a guard than Daryl was, where Deshaun's game is getting to the rim, a physical, athletic guard who can get downhill. All he's got to do is be able to keep us honest. Deshaun is never going to shoot 40% in his college career. And if he does, he's going to be a top 10 pick. But like you need something out of him just to keep them honest. And I think it will come along.
I think for Deshaun and Jamie, it absolutely will too. And I think like Travis mentioned, for guys coming in, I mean, Anthony Cowan started out freshman year and could not find his 3-ball early on. And then you saw throughout his career how he really just started to find it. So like you guys said, freshman year, it's tough. I do think the numbers will even out. I would like to see by the end of the year we're in the top 200s, but right now we're sitting at 340.
Okay, on that note, guess what Daryl shot his freshman year? Just for fun.
17%.
Anybody else? Because that's wrong. That's wrong.
28,
Anybody else?
28%.
No, that's wrong. Daryl shot 12% from 3 his freshman year, and that's just like straight up. And then by his last year, no, but
we love Daryl.
We love Daryl, but he by his last year shooting 35%, and like you guys saw what he did at Marquette last year. Like he was like on the scouting report, it was close out or he will make shots. Like he came a long way. We obviously saw him put the work in, so I do think there's something to be said for like let these guys get a chance to get their feet under them and work on it, and they will get better. Like Daryl, by his end of his college career, Daryl was a very good 3-point shooter.
Absolutely.
Well, everything we're saying right now is predicated on time. unfortunately, we're in a world of college basketball where time is not of the essence, and it's kind
Valid.
of what have you done for me lately?
This guy's true.
So what do you guys and to also, just to continue the argument of the shooting stuff, we also have the second leading scorer in NCAA right now, current, which is Jameer. He has the second most points currently in NCAA basketball. And Dante Scott, who is, I think he's in his fifth year, maybe fourth year. So how do you refute that? I mean, I know we just talked about the young guys, which is completely understandable. It's really, really tough to go into games. And mind you, the 3-point line is even further back now than it was even for us. So I get that learning curve. But what about the guys that are used to it, played in all these arenas and things like that? Do you think it's pressure from the outside, or do you just think it's bad shooting?
I think one thing for me that's been apparent, we talked about our last episode, our X Factors guys for the year. It is going to be very hard for this team to win if Dante does not play well. I think for me over the first couple games, especially the experience he has, and again, the minutes that he's playing, offensively, he's just better than Jordan right now. Like Dante has to play well, or we really, especially in Big Ten play, like for us to have a chance at winning. At least for the first couple games, like that was very obvious for me.
What do you guys think of what we went through with the games of Villanova, awfully, ominous of what we felt against UCLA last year at home. Where do you guys think they go from here? And what do you guys think is a success? I don't know if, luckily for Maryland, they have enough opponents that you don't shoot yourself in the foot for the NCAA tournament yet. You can still, kill it in the Big Ten and do your thing there. So you don't have to worry that much yet. But what do you guys think? Is there going to be a huge shift? Do you think you redo everything that you did in the offseason? How do you kind of move forward at a pace that allows you to start going upward rather than, maybe even downward? Because that's kind of the direction that we're in right now.
I think that as a college basketball team, what's most important these days is you have to find ways to win. And right now we're not shooting the ball well. What has been disappointing to me is early in the season, things happen. You don't shoot the ball well sometimes. Your offense is clunky. Things aren't flowing well. That happens early. I think the defense has been more disappointing to me, and it's not really things that are showing up in the stats. It's things like at the end of the game against Davidson, we have a guy cut through, and there's one guy switches, one guy doesn't switch. He ends up with a wide open three from the corner for the game. Like that type of stuff can't happen ever, but it especially can't happen when you are shooting 21% from three. So I think hopefully the shooting comes along. It might not, but hopefully it does. I'm sure it'll get better than it is now. But the defensive stuff is what I think right now, we have to clean up with, there's no excuses for that. The defensive stuff has to get cleaned up now. We can't be allowing guys to, waltz down the lane and get layups at the rim. We can't be not switching when we're supposed to switch. We have to clean up all of those mistakes, and we have to do it now.
Trav's absolutely right. I think the only thing that is good about losing to, there's not a lot good about it, but you lost to Davidson and then UAB, was that was a early season wake-up call. A lot of times you play bad teams, you don't notice until a Big Ten play started, and it's almost impossible to fix it. I think they had time. They had a wake-up call early, which was terrible. I mean, they started 1-3, worst start since 2000, but they got the wake-up call. I'm sure practice was miserable. I'm sure Willard let them know, and they knew what they need to work on. I think they've gotten better, and they will continue to get better.
I think too, you'll see that's where Willard is going to start to coach a little bit more. Travis alluded to it. A lot of the defensive stuff there were breakdowns, rotation wise, guys, the communication being off, coverages being off. In some ways in that Asheville games, I thought effort wise, especially the urgency at the end of the game was also not where it needed to be. But again, you have young players on the court, and they'll learn the urgency of the college game and how important each possession is. But you're going to see him start to coach that. And this should be based on the personnel we're starting with, and because of how we're not shooting the ball, we have to be a top 3 defensive team in the Big Ten. And I think we're capable of doing it because of who we have in the court. We can switch 1 through 4 in some cases, 1 through 5. Physical defenders, we're going to pressure you full court. That was disappointing because that's what this team should be hanging their hat on. And it felt like the offensive energy or not making shots 100% affected how we were doing defensively and our effort level and our focus level, especially at the end of those games with how many breakdowns there were.
And I will say, like, it's okay for us to not be as good offensively as we thought we were going to be. But like Kev said, like, if we're not going to be as good as we thought we were going to be offensively, like, we have to pick up that slack on defense. Like, we have to be, and we can be. Like, we have a lot of athletic guys. We have guys that have played like a lot of basketball. Like, we can be that good defensively. And if we're not going to shoot the ball well, we have to pick up that slack defensively, or else we're going to get smoked in a lot of games in the Big Ten.
Smoked.
And we talked about this. We've all talked about this a lot, but we have to discuss it on this because I know a lot of people listening want to hear perspective as well. Obviously, Willard will always be compared to Turgeon his entire coaching career because there's such a divide in our fan base. And I'll start by saying the fact that people want Willard gone already, like in the fire Willard stuff, is so mind blowing and so stupid because not only would that crush our program for the next 10 years, but you have to allow somebody to have their recruiting classes and give them a couple years. It's a 4-year rule typically where you have to get your own rotation of people in there. So to you guys, what do you think needs to change from how Willard is doing things? Or do you think it's, he still doesn't have his guys. He has 2 of his guys that he recruited. Everybody else is just random people. Like, what do you guys think is going to happen with all that?
And he's recruited well. Like, I think, Deshaun was a great get. Jamie was a great get. Like you said, these aren't all of his guys, and you're going to continue to see him build the roster the way he wants to play. And it is blasphemy. Like, and I know there's a lot of Maryland fans that are going to be listening to us. The same goes on the football side. Like, who are you going to get else that's better than Mike Locksley? Especially who's going to know the area and recruit the area. Like right now, Maryland, until it becomes the job football wise that everybody who roots for Maryland expects it to be, like, you need a guy like Locksley to figure it out, and like you need to give it time to happen. And as frustrated as you want to be, you got to let it develop. The Willard stuff is crazy. Like, that's just your hot weather, cold weather fans. This is going to take time. And I think we've talked about on this, we like his style of play. We like him as a person. Like, I think players like him. He connects with players. You just got to give this time. He's got to get his players in here, and he's got to get a little bit of success to give himself that buffer. And they won a tournament game last year. They bring back a good team this year. It's a rocky start. It's easy to jump ship now, but like, guys, let's slow down a little bit.
Let's relax.
And imagine if we do have DHS or Jamie for 2 or 3 years. I mean, those guys are going to be studs. He'll have them, and he'll start building his classes. Like Drew and Travis said, it's got to be a 4 or 5 year rule. You got to have your guys actually there. Dante was a product of Coach Turgeon. He's doing a great job with Dante, but he's only really got 2 or 3 on the guys that he brought to this program. And guys like DHS could have ended up at Duke. I mean, you look at PVI where he went to high school. They have 2 guys that signed to Duke for next year. So he won that. That's what we always wanted. So cut him some slack and be happy with what he's brought in.
I think, first of all, PVI's 2 guys going to Duke?
That's what I saw, and someone sent me. It was a big and a guard. I'll look back and try to find.
They got to be whooping St. John's. They got to be beating the shit out St. John's.
Beat them last. St. John's beat them last year. Got to be
killing St. John's. No, but I will say, like, and this is a question. This is probably a question I would ask you guys: is like, how much of this reaction that is kind of like, oh, we're not as good as we're supposed to be. Like, I feel like last year we probably relatively overachieved, right? Like year 1 in the Willard era, and mixing a lot of guys that he wasn't familiar with, and guys that a lot of big roles, and to
it's the same thing Turgeon would have done. Turgeon would have won a tournament game. It was Turgeon's team.
So. Right, but I think like winning a tournament game and having that year last year was probably better than a lot of people expected in year 1 of a new coaching era. So I think this year it was like, okay, we're going to take a step forward, and like we're going to immediately be better than last year, and obviously that hasn't happened. So my question is more of how much of this is kind of related to just having really high expectations this year in comparison to last year that we just haven't met.
Well, but that's why I said that it's Turgeon's team, because it created an unreasonable and unbelievable amount of expectation that you can't possibly achieve. I
I
mean,
agree.
it's his first real year being able to have an entire summer. There's no distractions. It's kind of just your team. You go do it. You're doing your recruiting trails, etc. You have your, foreign trip. Last year created an unfair expectation to Willard. And it was because of the team that he had constructed. He had guys like Jameer that could go get you buckets and win you games. And I know he still has them this year, but the way he is going to construct people is very different than, how Turgeon was going to do that. So I just think you have to be able to give him at least a couple years. Like I'm big on he should have 5-6 years. Like let him have full classes. You have to go freshman to senior. And with the transfer stuff, you want a guy like Willard where, guys do like him. He relates to people. He texts his team still. He likes, he lets them rock out. He lets them shoot, but they play hard defense. So I just think, it created an unfair expectation.
And you actually see that it's not like he came out and said this team's going to compete for a Big Ten title. It was the fans built it up. The fans talked about how they have all this summer together. The fans talked about how they got these 2 freshmen that are going to play big minutes. And then he actually said in the beginning of the year, we're going to struggle early on. He knew we had 2 freshmen.
He
We
did
have
say that.
Geronimo transferring. We
He
had
did
3
say
of
that.
our 6 guys didn't wear a Maryland uniform last year. So he said that and he knew it. It's just the fans built up. I don't blame the fans. It was exciting. We saw what we did last year. But I just think those expectations were too high, and we got to give him a couple years.
So, fellas, I agree with everything that's been said. I think the expectations were very high. I think he needs time, but I hate to be the bearer of bad news here. The bottom line is that this Friday, we have a date at Assembly Hall, and we are going to Indiana University to play a basketball game, and we don't have a ton of time to figure out this stuff. So I guess we play Ryder on Tuesday. It's a bye game. They should handle business. If we don't win by 20 plus, I'm gonna be disappointed. And then we go to IU. So I guess as conference play starts, I guess what are your guys' thoughts? How should we be thinking about this? And what are we thinking how are we feeling as we go into conference play?
Well, I can tell you this.
It's definitely it's a
I
good
can tell you this.
opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say the same thing. It's a good opportunity, at least. Big Ten. If you're watching the Big Ten, or you like the Big Ten, or if you're a sports gambler on the Big Ten, home conference wins. Always. When you're at home, you have a 5 to 7 point advantage. I know Vegas thinks they factor that in. I think it's even thicker than what they do. It's ridiculous how hard it is to play on the road. Kevin, do you remember your first massive game on the road? Not Georgetown, but something where, you had the student section on top of you.
Yeah, the thing about the road is the pressure of the environment. It feels like each possession, there's so much weight on you to score. The momentum is so much harder. It's harder to get into a rhythm. You just kind of have to grind. It's all about just the feel. Of course the game looks the same. If you're watching from a fan perspective, it's like you're still playing on a basketball court and the rims are the same height and all that. But it's just you're out there grinding. For some reason, it's just different. Feels like you can't score as easy. I remember playing at Michigan State, and the court literally felt smaller. When we played at Michigan State and we're shooting on their side in the first half, I remember thinking, this court is not regulation. Sideline to sideline, it felt smaller. It just felt like Michigan State was all over the place. Fast forward a month later, we play them at home, and I think we got off to a 9-0 run. Deion Wiley's going crazy. We're scoring it. I think we got up 20 in the first half, and we ended up losing. But that's just the feel of playing on the road is the weight of the crowd. Just for some reason, it's tough to overcome.
It's a great quote of momentum, where it takes a number of things to create momentum and it takes one thing to lose it. When you're on the road, it's different. The home team, it only takes one thing for them to create momentum. You don't need multiple. When you're playing on the road, you need 3 to 4 stops in a row. You need to get a couple buckets in a row. But if they get that steal and they finish a layup or they go dunk it, that momentum is completely crushed for you, and the momentum is completely shifted to them, even though it's only one thing. So, Travis, in hearing something like that, and you've obviously been part of huge games as well, what do you think the reasonable expectation for this team shooting as bad as they are is for Friday at Assembly Hall, which is quite frankly the toughest place besides maybe Mackey and Michigan State to play at.
That what you just said about the whole momentum thing, that takes me back. There was, I don't remember what year it was. We were playing at Indiana one year, and we had, I want to say Sticks. I want to say Sticks was in school, so it would have been like my senior year. We had some good things
COVID
going,
year.
and then they got a steal. They threw an alley oop to Justin Smith, and he dunked the ball, and he shut that shit down. Like the whole place, he tore the arena down. I couldn't hear a thing. I looked to my right, and I couldn't hear a word the guy sitting directly next to me was saying. And I was like, well, there's a momentum. So I almost think like it's good for us to have our first game be at IU, where like, expectations, like we just want to be competitive. Like if we lose that game, it's not the end of the world. I hope we guard well. I hope we shoot the ball confidently. And I just hope we play with some kind of like continuity, some flow, like, get good looks, guard, don't have any breakdowns and letdowns and things like that. So I think it's a great game to start with, right? Like that, if there was a game to get the guys going, I feel like this would be a good one to kind of jump into. Because if at the end of the day, if it doesn't go well, it's not the end of the world if you lose at Indiana.
If you talk about Jalen and Sticks at IU's fans, they love basketball and they love IU basketball. They were all over Sticks during the game, and Sticks at the end is yelling at a fan. I mean, they're all over you at those games.
Drew knows.
Both the students and the fans. And with that, I think if you line up our teams, I think they got us. I mean, their center is averaging 16 and 9. He's a 7-footer.
He's a monster. He's good.
He's a monster.
I think that at home, it's going to be tough for the Terps to even keep it within single digits.
This is again going to be a game if Juju gets in foul trouble. This is the first test, like first
Toast.
Big Ten. We talked about this, our keys of the season. If Juju gets in foul trouble in Big Ten play, we're in trouble. And I'll go even further.
Toast.
First game, a game like this in this environment, because Andrew said Assembly Hall for sure for me is top 2, top 3. I also
one
put
to
our
me.
crowd. Like when Xfinity's going, I swear, and we've had other players tell us this, like Xfinity is top 3 in the league too.
True.
Assembly Hall is a different animal. Jameer has to carry us, and Dante has to play well. Like those are your 2 oldest guys, your seniors, your super seniors. They have to show up on the road. Confidence building wise, if Deshaun goes into this game and plays well, and they somehow pull out a win and they win at Assembly Hall, like talk about your confidence builder for the rest of the season.
Change the season.
These freshmen, they need something like that. But your seniors and Juju, like those 3, they got to play well.
100%.
You know what's something?
I was gonna say, you said Kevin said Juju and those 3 guys. Speak of that, I don't even know if we mentioned this. You know how many guys scored last game? 4.
Yeah.
4. Which is like I've never heard of that personally in my life.
I honestly
At
got
home.
heard of that.
At home against a non-Power 5 school.
I've never heard of that in my life. So I think like that just goes to your point. Like this season, our guys have to play like our guys. They have to stay out of foul trouble and they have to hoop. And I am challenging Dante personally. Like, you are a 5th-year senior. You have to go out and I need you to score 12, 14 points a game because we need it.
Until proven otherwise, unfortunately, our margin of error right now is very small. Until other guys, like you saw, Noah's getting minutes. I don't think we really expected that early on. The guy can shoot. Like if he can come in and make an impact, if Jamie can make an impact, if you can get something out of Deshaun, like that's a bonus. But right now, our margin of error is so small. Like 4 guys scoring on the court is not ideal.
Reese, you and I spoke about this earlier today, and you kind of mentioned playing for somebody. Kind of talk about that a little bit with IU and a homecoming, that, if you will, for one of our guys.
Yeah, so Jordan Geronimo gets to go back to where he barely played. He got recruited, but barely played, had some injury issues. Gets to go back and likely start against his old team. So he's going to be fired up. I mean, we see it when guys who don't get recruited by Maryland come to our gym. My God. I mean, Hunter Dickinson, every time he made a layup, he was staring us down.
He was recruited by us. Don't throw that.
Yeah, he got offered. He just didn't want to play behind other bigs. So, but even smaller guys, Travis and I talk about all the time. Guys who go to those Mount St. Mary's type schools, and they'll come back and they'll drop 20 on us. They'll still
They
lose by
love to
20,
hoop. They
but they
love
love
to
it.
hoop.
So Jordan's going to go back fired up to play against IU at IU. Hopefully starts, hopefully plays well. The guy's a great athlete. He's going to play hard regardless. So hopefully it's a good homecoming for him.
They way overdid that homecoming thing in DC though, because of how many guys come out of the DMV. Every single
Everybody.
game was like,
Every game.
guys, this guy averages 6 points, but he's from the area. He's gonna wanna come in here and give us 20. Like every
they will.
single game.
Like,
every single, but they all hoop. They all would
They
shoot
all
20
do.
shots a
They
game and
all
try to
do,
get that stuff.
bro. And they're all talking shit, looking at someone in the crowd like, I should be here. I should be here.
Yes. No,
Bro, were you guys
shouldn't.
there for that Towson game? Was
Oh
that
God, was I?
Mike
Man,
Morchell,
That was my freshman year. Me and Kev freshman
punked
year.
us. Oh my God, they punked us.
punked the whole coaching staff too? They punked
And the
everybody.
coaching staff.
They had to have had a
everybody.
conversation before the game. Like every time we score, we're gonna look at Turgeon and be like, "Why are we not in Maryland?" Every time they looked at Turgeon.
Turge was looking at somebody to fight someone. He's like looking around like, could somebody fight someone for me?
I was about to run off the bench. I was about to run off the bench and clothesline somebody.
Bro, that would have been crazy. That would have been literally the greatest thing ever.
I would have gotten
Oh
kicked
my
the
You
shit.
God.
need like DeMonte Dodd. He was like our senior that year. He was a big guy. He's like DeMonte Dodd was like clueless to everything that was happening. I'm looking at Turds like, who do you think I'm fighting out here?
Hey, so,
DeMonte's the guy. Like DeMonte is the guy. It's
Lay
like,
somebody
go sit
out,
a hard
pause,
screener,
Tay.
lay somebody out. Checo might have, Checo wasn't the guy for that.
Tay was already thinking about the pregame, man.
hey, and that's what I was just about to ask. So to go off kilter with basketball real fast, and then we got to wrap this up. How bad is it for the boys on campus right now? You know, Bentley's is a little stricter with the underage guys. You know what I'm saying? You're not getting into any bars. Turf is completely locked down. The frats don't like you. What do you do, guys? Hey, and also
Pre-games
the
at the
winter
varsity.
winter
learned
break
this.
too.
Pre-games and post-games at the varsity. There's no game. It's just pre and post-game at the
Hey,
varsity.
hey,
This is
so
the game.
I just learned this from a couple IU guys, because when we would lose at Maryland, frats wouldn't let us in. Frats didn't mess with us. They all hated us. X,
Correct.
Y, and Z. I was talking to some of the IU guys that were a little bit older, and they're like, bro, we didn't let basketball people in when they lost because they didn't cover. Like, they lost us all money. We hate those guys that night. You know what I'm saying? So they couldn't cover the beer even for the party. So what do you guys think campus is like for the boys right now? Because we felt this, man. We had a bad year. We had a tough couple stretches.
Not good. And then the worst part is what's coming up is winter break, and you're the only person on campus for about a month and a half.
It's absolutely
Well, there's so much construction on campus right now. I feel like the whole energy of the place is a little weird. So that might be giving them some cover right there.
I just can't wait for the L train or U train, whatever that thing is, to come in, let all the homeless people off, and they're just rolling around campus because of that idea. So with that being said,
over under 2 years of that being in operation before they take the stop away, and then you just have train tracks through Maryland campus forever.
shit, dog, maybe we will we'll get a couple walk-ons, man, help the squad a little bit. I know there's a couple guys that got some eligibility that are going to be riding on that thing. Hey, and with that being said, that's the end of season 2's episode 2 of the Old Terps podcast. Let's hope that we play a little bit better at assembly, but God knows that ball ain't going in the hole any easier. Let me tell you.
Just to close, last episode, Drew had said his prediction was undefeated by New Year's, and I had said I would take my shirt off on Instagram Live if that happened.
Wondering if we're going to address that.
Just wanted to address the fact that I will no longer be taking my shirt off on Instagram Live. Apologies to the public. Disappointing,
and
I know.
I'll actually be the one taking my shirt off for how bad the prediction.
just for shits and gigs. Andrew will be taking his shirt off on Instagram Live.
Hershey bars this morning. I've been drinking.
I think we should start a new thing. Every time we lose, Andrew has to shave the stash.
I'm going to be saving the stash a lot this season if we do
twice a week.
This is rare. The stash is rare. This was to piss my mom off during a little Thanksgiving feast. get a little gravy up in the stash, make her look
family pictures, full
Here's
Jimmy Butler.
my prediction for you guys.
Yeah, let's do that. Prediction of the week. Let's do prediction of the week, and somebody will take their shirt off Instagram Live.
IU wins. Excuse me. Maryland wins by 10 plus at IU.
Oh boy,
Get
okay.
out of here.
Kev,
Prediction
what do you
or
think?
wish?
At
Look for
IU.
Christmas miracle earlier.
IU beats Maryland by 13.
Oof.
I think Maryland hangs tough first half. They come out with great energy. They're physical. Then I think the shot making part will hinder them second half. IU pulls away.
I agree. I think it's a 6-point
Score,
loss.
though.
I think we
You gotta put a
play
score
tough.
to it.
All right, score. I got 68-62 IU. Lose by 6. 62 would be a good outcome for us this far this year.
I got 68. I'll go 64-48.
Oh God, 48 is
Jeez.
disgusting. It makes me want to
Okay,
throw up.
well, we're gonna book note this. Whoever's furthest off on the prediction, which unfortunately I've taken the bad side here. Shirts off on Instagram Live. Hey, that's it. Season 2, episode 2. We'll talk to you next time. Peace.